They measured approximately 9 feet long, triangular in shape, black glass looking, metal feel, but very, very smooth. One side of the craft, there was markings on the craft. There were a series of etchings. That's what it seemed like to me, like they're etched in the fabric of the craft.
Like, listen to what I'm telling you. I have watched all of these, and there is no story that I am more sure is true than this one, where many, many people interacted with a downed UFO craft. That is exactly what this story is, and I believe it. All right, so my video last week was a big hit with you guys. The Phoenix Lights one, where I went through the Mouthy Buddha documentary and we were going through the Phoenix Lights. So we're going to do another one today on the Rendlesham Forest. Now, this story, if you do not know this particular story, it is absolutely insane. And so I'm going to show you a little bit on Wikipedia about it, and then we're going to get into the documentary. Okay, so this incident happened in December of 1980. All right. This happened at a nuclear weapons base in the UK. Okay, so it's the United States military base in the UK, and it is one of the most, if not the most credible military-based UFO sightings ever. This documentary is going to blow your mind, okay? So, essentially, they there are all these lights. You know what? Actually, I can't even do it justice. I'm going to be honest. I can't even do it justice. So I'm going to show you guys the Dauntless Dialogue. So if you are interested in watching more of these, which you should be, you go to Dauntless Dialogue, get a membership there, and watch Mouthy Buddha's UFO stuff. Specifically this one, I'm going to show you a bunch of it right now because this is an absolutely fascinating story. All right, so let's jump into it right now, and I will obviously be stopping it throughout to talk.
What it was a very bright light illuminating from the forest floor.
The next thing that we saw was the lights in a forest.
And then the lights started appearing, and it was like they were maneuvering between trees.
He's breathing a little heavy, and he says, "Security control, the object is about 150 feet in front of us." And then, I mean, it was just a matter of a couple of seconds. He comes back, and his breathing is a little heavier, and he goes, "Security, do you copy that the object is behind us now?"
Wait, what's that on the radio? The aliens are telling us to subscribe to Jesse on Fire's channel and to like this video. You definitely should listen to your alien overlords and do those things.
We do our perimeter check, and all of a sudden, on the radio, someone starts yelling, "There's a UFO out here."
Around 3 a.m., Sergeant Jim Peniston was notified of a possible downed aircraft in the forest, and that Airman First Class Ed Kabansag was on his way to collect him. They drove to the East Gate and met up with Staff Sergeant Stevens and Airman First Class John Burroughs. Sergeant Randy Smith and Airman First Class Richard Bertolino, among others, were already at the East Gate observing the lights.
It's not like a light that continually traveled. You know, it didn't have that property of a flashlight or a light bulb that illuminated an area. It almost had a dome quality to it.
Where did we hear that before, you guys? Where did we hear that before? What did they talk about in the Phoenix Lights? And they said they looked up and they said that it looked as though it was like light bouncing around like in a dome. Each one of them was like inside of its own dome, which indicates technology we do not understand. Technology we have, lights go out, and so it just kind of goes out and then it fades as it gets further from the light source. Whatever the light sources are on these objects is not the technology that we use as it relates to how light works.
Like it lit a certain area and that was it.
The whole canopy of the forest is got like a white bubble of light over it.
Peniston, Kabansag, and Burroughs began to walk toward the woods to investigate, but because of a treaty with Great Britain, they weren't allowed to have their firearms off base.
They put all their weapons in my vehicle, and I stayed at the East Gate and watched while they all went out.
And we went to a place called Bunker Hill because we knew it was the highest point that we could get to on base.
I thought this was a prank. I thought, okay, 3-4 days on with my flight, there's a big, huge mud puddle out here, and they're going to throw me in the mud.
I've had at least 30 or 40 crashes that I have been to, and at that point in time, and that's definitely what I thought it was.
We had a great triangulation, being on the hill, to them in the woods, to the object, to security control.
Sergeant Peniston told Ed to relay behind him, but as soon as they got deeper into the woods, something changed.
We started walking out into the forest. And when I looked out there, there was no lights. They were gone. And the forest was pitch black. Almost immediately, we started having trouble with our radios.
I wasn't getting no response at all back from the control center.
So something's interfering with their communication. Something's interfering with their radios. They're out in the middle of the forest, okay? And they're responding to reports of a downed aircraft or a UFO of some kind that had been zipping around outside of the base, okay? Try to imagine how scary that would have been.
They began to feel an electric charge.
All of a sudden, everything was different. There was like an electric charge in the air, like static electricity.
What have I said? Every time, I always talk about that, how these really credible ones, they talk about an area around these objects that is emitting tons of static electricity. My opinion has to be either the craft's like, sucking electricity out of the air, or that the electric, the static electricity has something to do with the mechanism with which how they work, like how they fly.
Felt like your hair was standing up.
Feel that? Then we could hear farm animals. Whatever was out there, that told me that they were trying to get away from it.
Him and Burroughs pursued what they perceived to be a craft on the forest floor.
It measured approximately 9 feet long, triangular in shape, black glass looking, metal feel, but very, very smooth. One side of the craft, there was markings on the craft. There were a series of etchings. That's what it seemed like to me, like they're etched in the fabric of the craft.
It was like a blink of an eye. It went from being there to gone, just like that snap.
They finally came back.
You could tell that something happened.
By the way, they breezed over that. Those guys were walking around and messing around with this thing for 45 minutes. 45 minutes. All those guys that were talking, okay? So, I don't know. Do you guys know anything that is, a triangle that you can, that hovers and then all of a sudden it can, and it goes into space so fast that you wouldn't have even seen it if you would have blinked? I don't know anything that does that.
Happened to him.
And Richard noticed Sergeant Peniston was holding a small notebook.
He was describing some of the situation, and he pulled out this little notebook, and he diagrams what he saw out there. It was kind of diamond-shaped, and he explained that it wasn't like any metal he had ever seen.
After I got up close to the craft, the writing changes. It changes from being written confidently to shaky. Gotta stop there. Sorry. I need a little time. Okay. Wow.
Hey, people come out of the military with PTSD. Most of them probably not because they interacted with a downed UFO. You know what I mean? Most of the time it has to do with like traditional soldiering, not because they watched an alien craft go in front of them and terrified them for life.
After they drove back to the base, men in civilian clothes were waiting.
There were gentlemen there with sunglasses, and they took Cabanas and Jim Pennison off somewhere. We no longer saw them when we turned in our weapons. I almost felt like, I felt kind of betrayed, because they wouldn't even talk to me about it anymore. I mean, we all still got along, but anytime it would be brought up, they just could not talk about it anymore. What was said to them to clam them up so tight, I have no idea.
It's weird that they would have only taken in Peniston and the other guy. Like, why? I don't know. That's what I've never understood. Like, why would they only, like, these other guys were there? Why wouldn't they pull them in also? You know what I mean? It seems weird.
And I just remember sitting there and all of a sudden seeing this light up in the sky.
Airman Lori Bowen had no knowledge of what happened the night before, and for the first time was stationed at the East Gate for a midnight shift. And around 1 a.m., she saw something.
And it was a multicolored, reds, yellows. It was kind of turning, and it was slowly descending into the Queen's Forest, into Rendlesham's Forest.
Just before Lori's sighting, on the same night, Sergeant Rick Bobo, who served in the WSA guard tower, also saw something.
There was a light up in the sky, and just started watching it. It was kind of green, blue, red, and it just hung there. It had other lights came down and went down off of it, and it went to the ground. That did. The object didn't that I saw, but something came out of it and went to the ground.
Cool. Mothership and some probes. Or, Mothership and some crafts. Like, is this story not totally insane? Because it gets a lot crazier, too.
They both heard commotion over their radio frequency, listening to high-level officials speaking quickly in the woods.
I just remember, like, holy cow, there's this thing up in the sky landing. And next thing I know, Trematosi's down at my gate.
And I called it in. Apparently it hadn't been the first time that had been happening around there. In time, somebody came up into my tower, and I wasn't allowed to have anybody up there, but I was told this person, I don't know who they were, didn't get a name, didn't see a rank insignia, they didn't speak. They watched for probably a half hour maybe, and then they left. During that time, then we started picking up radio traffic. We got to where we could hear everything that was going on, and there was people out in the forest then trying to track down what was going on. There was a lot of radio traffic, a lot of people.
And I remember just distinctly was Lieutenant Tampon saying, Bob, where are you? And she sounded really scared. And I remember thinking, wow, she's calling him Bob. That's Sergeant Ball. Just was so scared that she forgot all protocol.
That's that right there. You looking for indicators of people telling the truth? That's where you find them. Stuff like that, little stuff like that they would remember. That's not the kind of thing that you make up in your mind. It's like you're telling a true story. It's always weird stuff like that. It's like I heard my co-worker calling the staff sergeant Bob, and I'm like, what the dude? She forgot that she's supposed to call, you know what I mean? She's supposed to be calling him sir. That's the kind of thing that sticks out in the mind of a person who is telling a true story.
I've been up in that tower a lot. There was no light there. There was nothing there, ever. Suddenly there is.
Now we have multiple sightings of up to 5 lights with a similar shape and all, but they seem to be steady now rather than a pulsating or glow with a red flash. We just crossed the creek, and we're getting what kind of readings now? It appears to be maybe moving a little bit this way. It's brighter than it has been. It's coming this way. It is definitely coming this way.
The object came into the forest, moved through the trees, obviously under intelligent control because it could have bopped up and down, went through the trees. We tried to get close closer to it. We moved up toward it, watched for a couple minutes at the edge of the forest, and it silently exploded into 5 white objects and disappeared.
But right before this happened, a small team was already in Rendlesham Forest. Other than supplying their ranks, they have all remained anonymous.
We were about halfway into the shift, I guess, when we noticed some lights in the sky that didn't seem to follow any pattern of any aircraft that we'd seen.
I found what appeared to be 3 depressions in the ground, 3 depressions in a triangular pattern, 12 foot equidistant from each other, measured from center to center.
I took the pictures and we thought we had some evidence, but when the pictures came back, they were all whited out. There was nothing on the film itself or on the negatives.
We watched them for a while and it disappeared, and the next thing that we saw was the lights in a forest, and we could see into the clearing and see a set of lights that seemed to be alternating through different color ranges.
Right now, I do believe that UFOs exist. Up until that point, I'd been skeptical. Now I believe there may have been someone else there.
Things seem to be clamped down quite suddenly, and nobody was talking to anybody else about it. And when I tried to find or ask specific questions, nobody knew anything.
See, that's the whole thing to me, is I think that no one does know. I don't think anyone knows. I think that people are always looking for answers in the government, and they don't know. Because this is what it's like. You get you got basic, these are people who are guarding our thermonuclear ICBMs. This is top brass. Now, those people who came in the suits, maybe they know something, I don't know. But by the way, shortly we're going to be hearing about the mothership, so stick with it, dude. This continues to get crazier and crazier. And again, thank you, Mouthy Buddha. Thank you, Dauntless Dialogue. This is the best content on the internet, these guys.
And we decided to go a little bit closer to see what we could find out. And when we got closer, began to feel the hair on your arms and the back of your neck and your head, under your head even, stand on end. It's like there was a real big static charge in the air.
Does that sound familiar? Every single person reports that.
The anonymous sergeant was asked if he believed, as the skeptical consensus claims, that what he actually saw was just the Orfordness Lighthouse, which is 6 miles east of the base.
I've never once seen a lighthouse that moved. And this object moved because we followed it. Under no way could that be the Orford Lighthouse.
And why would they write in the report that it's the lighthouse? Obviously, it's not the lighthouse, but they write that anyway. This dude right here is a colonel who was he was like the highest ranking guy on the base, and he went out into the forest.
A lighthouse doesn't move through the forest. The lighthouse doesn't go up and down, it doesn't explode, doesn't change shape, size.
About that time, we decided that we better get the heck out of there because we were getting a little too scared to stick around. And we saw some other people coming up from one of the access roads.
Those people were Lieutenant Colonel Halt, Lieutenant England, Sergeant Bestenza, Sergeant Nevels, and Master Sergeant Ball. The following recording is real and documents their pursuit.
Within 148, we're hearing very strange sounds out of the farmers' barnyard animals.
This is the guy who I just showed you, the guy who I said is the colonel. This is his voice.
They're very, very active, making an awful lot of noise.
With your feet in the air and your head on.
Whoa. Can't play that because that's going to get this thing demonetized for the music. But again, I highly encourage you guys, go to Dauntless Dialogue, watch every single documentary that Mouthy Buddha's ever made. He's the best documentarian ever. Okay? So, again, I don't know what to make of any of this stuff, dude. I just want to share it with you guys because I love you guys. And if I'm interested in it, I bet you guys are too. So that's what I got. I love you guys. Subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell. Bye-bye.